Okay. So yeah, so welcome, Curtis. We've got a mix of students. Like I said, I teach 3 different classes. So we've got students from different classes. We have Miss Marcia joining us, and students will be rolling in periodically.
Cool.
So welcome.
Glad to be here. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Soraya, for the invitation. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see what I see, and I'll just talk about my work, talk about who I am, and answer some questions towards the end. I would love to see your faces, but I understand it's early in the morning, so do what works for you. But if you can turn your camera on, I would appreciate seeing your faces. So as Soraya mentioned, my name is Curtis Young. I am the executive director of a Harlem-based nonprofit. We work with young people all across the city, but we're based in Harlem. We've been digital for the past 6 months, like the rest of the world. Our mission is to bring the power of artistic practice to young people who are involved with the juvenile justice system, either be it incarcerated, be on probation, or otherwise just have any sort of court case. We work with young people who are having some difficulties in their lives because of a variety of reasons, and we help them to be introduced to art and also express themselves creatively. So once again, we exist because we look at mass incarceration or incarceration of people of color, communities of color, as being a major social justice issue of our time, and we believe that art is a powerful tool to help impact the world and change the perceptions of people and their experiences. Our young folks, they're able to tell a story that a lot of adults and a lot of judges and a lot of lawyers may not even understand. So we use art to help share that story, using it metaphorically to help definitely change the perspective of some who are involved in their proceedings. The art also allows the young people to create their own narration through exhibitions and public art projects. We have 3 main programs, and I think this is the beauty of when you talk about career development. As someone who always been interested in the arts and culture, I never knew that this type of work existed. I knew that obviously activism and social advocacy work existed, but I never knew there was a way to kind of connect my interests at a young age with art and culture, with education development, and also advocacy work. As Soraya mentioned, I worked in education for a very long time. I'm doing curriculum development, but I never really tackled like, how do you create an art curriculum that's based on social justice? So that was my interest and my driving force with moving and transitioning from my other work in education to this sort of like art education work under the framework of social justice narratives. So we have 3 main programs, and this is how we do this work. We have a studio art workshop, which is our teaching artists. We hire teaching artists, or those who are professional artists, to go on to Rikers Island. We go to Rikers Island, we do work on Rikers Island. We were doing this prior to COVID, obviously, but our teaching artists would go to Rikers Island and work with young people who are incarcerated, doing art projects, doing art therapy. All of our projects have an art therapist component to them to help young people kind of process what they're experiencing and talk about some of the things they've gone through, and to help them really tackle the creative, bringing out the creative energy that is associated with whatever they've gone through, whatever trauma they've gone through. So art therapy is an underlying theme in all of our programs, be it on Rikers Island or in our programs in community settings in Harlem. So our art and entrepreneurship program, which is our Harlem-based program, is where we invite young people who have been released from the carceral system, or those who are no longer involved with the court system, those who are no longer on probation, or maybe some of them maybe still are, or those who are kind of ready to move on in their lives. The art and entrepreneurship program, we call it the A&E program. We actually pay our young people. We give them a job. We give them a job to make art. And we give them a job to come to our sessions twice a week or 3 times a week, sit with our teaching artists, our therapists, and they come up with a project themselves, and they work on a project for the entire year. And the culminating event, similar to our work at Ross, is an exhibition that they organize and they curate themselves. So they learn how to curate the exhibition. After they do the artwork, they learn to curate the exhibition themselves, writing the project statements, writing the program, the caption for all the pieces, pricing their work, because a part of the program is to build their entrepreneurship skills and help them to see art as something that they can make money from. Like they can make money off of many things, but art is one of those things that we're trying to push them to learn about how to make money from art. Art is a very lucrative career, so if we could just kind of drop seeds in our young people's mind so they learn that this is an option for them, then our mission is fulfilled. So the exhibition is a chance for them to do that. They make this amazing artwork and they sell it. They sell it, and 80% of all the money that they sell goes back to them, and the other 20% goes to art supplies for our program. But it really is a culminating experience for all of our young people to have an exhibition with their work on display and to sell their own artwork.
That's awesome.
So some of the artwork you see in this presentation is all created by them as well. So, you know, in addition to creating the space for our young people to tell their story, we also help them on their path to adulthood and just the future, and thinking about leadership skill development, and helping them to advocate for themselves. A big component is advocating for yourself and being able to stand up and say, I want this, or I need this, or this is what I need you to help me with. That's a big part of their trajectory in our programs, and we use art for that. You know, once you're creating art can be used as sort of that, like, you know, once you've, the feeling of completing the art project gives you the agency to believe that you can do all things. So I want to show you some of the artwork they've created. This is a young man, Bishop, who was one of our young participants we first came in contact with on Rikers Island. He was extremely talented. He was being released from the Rikers Island program, and we offered him an opportunity to come work with us in our A&E Harlem-based program. He came, and his art career and his creativity kind of just expanded so much, and now he's doing amazing work. He was actually, there was a commission project that he was hired to be an assistant artist under the artist, Birds on Broadway project. He did a great job with that last year, and he's just doing amazing work. But it just shows you that everyone has the ability to create amazing pieces of art. Doesn't matter your experiences, doesn't matter your background, where you come from, who you are, whether you're rich or poor. Like, art is something that should be accessible to everyone. And these are great examples of how our young folks who didn't have any art experience or art training or art background, or even art classes, how they came to tap into their inner creativity.
Curtis, what is the name of this artist that you just mentioned?
He's one of our young, his name is Bishop McAndo.
Okay.
He's a youth artist. He's now alumnus. I can send you his information as well.
For the students that, I'm curious, did that artwork that you just saw, did his style remind you of any artist?
Yeah.
That you've seen before?
What's that guy name? He made abstract art, street art, graffiti.
Yes, you're on the right.
Name.
You're on the right track. It was graffiti style, abstract style. If I tell you his first, give me some more information that you might remember about that artist, because this student's work.
He's dark skinned. He overdosed on a drug.
Correct, 100%.
You know what I'm talking about. I can't remember his name.
I do. You've given me so many facts that I know.
Oh, what's his name? Basquiat.
Aliyah for the win.
Big brain.
So interesting story. Bishop is a huge Basquiat fan. So if you see any of his work, you're going to see some similarities because he just idolizes Basquiat. So this actually is I'll show you some other pieces, but this right here, we have a partnership with the School of Visual Arts. So our young people, we go to, well, in the past 4 years, we would go to SVA and work with their students, their art therapy department. And they gave us a huge room in their art therapy built in the department to kind of curate and make murals. So this is a very, very large piece. It's like an entire wall that he made of this image. And I'll show you some images of the SBA space later, but this is a huge project that they did in collaboration with the School of Visual Arts. And we still have that partnership. We're not gonna go there to physically do a piece of art this year because the school is closed, but we're gonna start back in January with a community project there. Maybe it has to be digital, but we'll have to figure that out. So I'll show you some more work.
So he is a fan of Basquiat.
Yes, he is. This is our current exhibition, and I'll show you some of the end products of this work as well. But this is another young student, Joe. The exhibition they worked on at SVA this year, they titled it "What If," and it was all about what if we listen to the voices of young people. They all created what if statements, like what if we didn't have destroyed the climate? What if we didn't do this? And they just kind of envisioned or visualized a new world. And they created, each one of our young students created a wall or painted a wall based on their what if statements and their curatorial statement. So this is Joe's work.
Oh, wow.
This is the early stage. I'll show you the finished product. I took pictures of just the process pieces, but this is probably like 3 months into the piece. What do you all think of these?
Can one of our students unmute your mic and let us know what you think? How about Cedric? Come on, Cedric, I know you hear me. Or maybe Dimitri, can one of you unmute your mics and tell us what do you think of the work?
We can come back to you. I'm gonna show you some more. So this is actually the beginning stages of it. So you see the wall, like this is the space they gave us at SVA, and they all have a wall basically. We just said, okay, Joe, you get this wall, Ileana, you get that wall, and they were able to do anything they wanted to do with that wall. So they're literally, imagine being able to just have the freedom. Once again, we hope to provide the freedom of artistic practice. So giving these young people this freedom to just do whatever they want to do with the wall. Mm-hmm. It's very different from like working on a piece of canvas because you have more control, but just the concept of like this large space that you have to occupy yourself by putting something there is actually very, very intimidating. So because you start small, you're like, what am I gonna do? But it evolves over the course of a year. So they have a whole year to do this project. And I'll show you the final pieces. This is some of the other work that they've created. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, we do add art therapy, and part of the reason we do the art therapy, the wall metaphor, or when I speak about the wall process, it is very closely connected to the art therapy department at SVA because they're the ones helping us to help the young people break down that intimidation factor and helping them to be comfortable in the space, a college environment space, helping them to be able to ask for support on their walls and their mural projects. And the art therapy department has been really hugely successful with supporting our young artists in that project. So art therapy is interwoven into every aspect of our programming at ArtisticNoise. Could we believe in the cultivating that authentic and grounded identity where we're both benefiting from each other. And it's not just like a lot of nonprofits where you're showing their work and you're like, okay, we are doing this for young people, but we're aiming to also have it be an exchange where they're teaching us something. So that's what the mural project is. It really is them deciding what they want to do, what they want to share, how they want to do it, when they want to do it, and everything is led by the young people. And it's not us saying, you're going to do this, go home, and you have 4 hours to do this project. It's more so them telling us what they want to do.
That's great.
From like literally from the art supplies to the themes to the wall, everything is led by them. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell. I'm going to show you some other pieces. So this year, our exhibition, as I mentioned, at the end of each year, we would have the young folks curate an exhibition themselves, and we would work with a gallery space or some sort of free space, donated space, and we were not able to do that this year because of COVID. So we had to transition very quickly from being in the community and working with young folks after school hours from 4 to 7, 3 days a week, to doing work online and providing other ways of supporting them. So we at the end of the year, we did a virtual exhibition. It was our first time doing a virtual exhibition space, and it was a quite unique experience, kind of trying to kind of put everything together. We were able to put together this space to kind of reflect the 3 main things we did this year.
Curtis,
last
can you pull your screen up a little bit higher?
Oh yes, I can actually make it a full.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So we worked on three. They came up with the theme 2020. The show must go on, because even though we have COVID, we still have to find a way to move our lives forward. So they had we gave them material when we first went on pause in March. We gave them a bag of like art supplies and canvas, and we said we're going to be meeting. We'll give you a few lesson plans, and they were able to take those lesson plans and they worked on things independently. So I'll show you some of the independent self-guided projects they worked on. And a lot of this was driven by what was going on in the world. So Ariana made this Black Lives Matter piece from her apartment. We had nothing to do with this. We just gave them supplies and they were able to do whatever they wanted to do. She also made this. So you can see how the movement inspired her to create these images surrounding the protest. And these are all donated clothing. She just literally, and she used it as a way to cope. And it was a very traumatic experience for a lot of us during those time periods. She's a woman of color, and she just really just processed that experience in what was going on during the height of the protests by creating these extremely vibrant pieces of art. And then she created this right here, which kind of represents, New York City landscape, what was going on, seeking serenity as well in the midst of all the chaos. And she also journaled during this time period. So this is all of our self-guided projects. If you go to I'll put this link in the chat. You can go through it, but you can see that she did a lot of writing during this time period that she turned into art. Really using thinking of art as not just something that involves a paintbrush and a piece of canvas or some sort of or art supply. Art is this as well. Writing in a journal is a very creative process, and this is what she did to kind of also reflect on what was going on. So you can read her words, it's all public. This is Nazir's work. And once again, these are all self-guided projects. Samantha was one of my favorite young folks, because Samantha actually was with child. She was pregnant when she was last year, and she got so afraid that in her pregnancy that she was going to contract COVID. So she actually left the country and went to Puerto Rico with her family. And she's been living in a small little kind of village setting there with her relatives and gave birth to her child. But this is all her going through her motherly emotions during that time period and creating images that represented that where she was, becoming a new woman. You can see there were some right here that kind of show her pregnancy.
I love how her hair becomes the aura around her.
Yeah, exactly. She was saying that in Puerto Rico it was so hot that it just sweated.
Oh, wow.
So
looks like something you'll see in the fall.
yeah, exactly. So that's Samantha. And then we also had so we also worked with the Tisch Illumination Foundation, Lori Tisch, and they were one of our funders. And they
NYU?
Excuse me?
NYU Tisch, same.
The same Tisch family, yes.
Right.
But, no, not the school, but the family. Lori Tisch, the Lori Tisch, the Illumination Fund, and they support a lot of artists and programs around the city. She's a major philanthropist, so she has been a funder of ours and one of our early funders. And they had a 10-year retrospective. So they wanted us to reproduce these images that we created with young people who were incarcerated on Rikers Island. They did this pillowcase project about dreams. And imagine being in a prison cell where you are sleeping on this hard cot, and you have a pillowcase with a very not comfortable pillow, and you're 17. Imagine how uncomfortable that is. You're not able to sleep, you're away from your family. So the young people many years ago, they did a project surrounding dreams and what they think about while they're, what their visions are for their lives after, challenges with them sleeping there, concepts of home, loss, etc., all those themes. And so we recreated that project before the special commission that was actually also interrupted. We were supposed to have an exhibition at the Tisch Foundation, and they canceled it because of COVID. But these were the pieces that we hired. We paid a few of our artists, alumni artists, to recreate some of the work that was previously created. And this is one of the
Are these painted on pillowcases also, in fact?
They are on pillowcases. Yep, they are on pillowcases. I'm not sure if you're able to hear this, but I'll play this and let me know if you can hear it. Can you hear?
My favorite piece to work on this year was definitely the pillowcase project, mainly because of the different texture that we use. It's different from working on canvas, and I didn't have the traditional things that everybody else had, like paint. I had to strictly use studio markers, and I got creative with it, and I started using glitter with some glue to make it stay. And you know, because of the amount of alcohol that we have because of the virus, I just started using alcohol to make the markers bleed, and that's how I got the effect of my pillowcase.
So that's that. Were you all able to hear that?
Yes.
Okay. And this is Bishop's. Bishop is the artist that you saw first. Remember that artist you saw that resembled Basquiat?
Yes.
That was an earlier piece of his 3 years ago. This is the piece that he did a more recent pillowcase piece that he did. Do you still feel the same similarities?
Yes and no. I think it's a bit different. Do you guys
No,
think?
I feel like with the what's it called, with the figure in the corner, the left bottom corner, that kind of still gives you like, it gives you the feeling of it still being like kind of like Basquiat, but it's still like also his own.
Yep. Yeah. So this is about his. So this is about his dream, his nightmare, and one of his nightmares is encountering the NYPD. This is the MTA. So his theme was like how that makes him feel. It was just like him recreating these scary images, things that, you know, Freddy Krueger is there, NYPD is there. He's on the subway. This is actually a subway train. So yeah, this is his pillowcase project that he created. My piece is called Nightmare on 125th Street. I was going for a surrealistic perspective, and I love how it came out. It's basically a combination of some of my personal nightmares and some taken from actual movies I've seen over the years. And this is Khadijah, you know, representing going through a dream state. So this is more of the SVA mural project. I'll go here next. Once again, I mentioned it was about, the theme was what if? And this is Joe. Joe was the guy you saw earlier. This is his first stroke of red paint. And then this is some of the other work pieces that how it evolved.
That's a large space he has.
Yes, it is, very.
Oh, wow.
So once again, he was the artist, and the students were the artist assistants. So we gave them agency to be the leaders and to kind of direct what they wanted. And sometimes the young people didn't want people touching their work. They said, I don't need help, go away, you know? So we had a system of helping them to ask for, knowing how to ask for help and when to ask for help, and making everyone know that, you know, sometimes they don't want people to be in their personal space or help them with their pieces, like any artist. But yeah, this is.
And what year is this that we're looking at?
This is last program year. So this is 2020, 2019, 2020. And we were just preparing to do a end of like a studio, open studio, like in March. We had it was literally planned the week we shut down to do like a wrap up for this project. And we invite the public to come in. We have, you know, snacks, and they talk about their work and they give a tour, but that was interrupted. So we were not able to do that.
Is this the show that you did a virtual exhibit?
Well, this is part of, yeah, so we added this these images are, this website I'm showing you is our virtual exhibition.
I see. Gotcha.
Let me show you some other pieces. This is Ariana. Ariana was the young woman who did the Black Lives Matter piece.
On her clothing?
On her clothing, yeah. So this is her mural. So her what if was about climate change. So you can see she's a bit more, you know, into some of the deeper themes. She collected trash. Hers was about climate change.
And the prompt, the what if
Oh, I
prompt,
like that.
is that one that came from, is that one that SVA is already using in their art therapy program, or is that something that you guys?
That was actually what they figured, the young people came up with that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we did it. We did like a opening workshop where we would just sit around and talk about what they were thinking about and helping them to, there's a curriculum involved with like helping them come up with a theme. And that's how they came up with this theme of what if. What if war is not held? You know, just a lot of just what if statements, basically.
Mm-hmm.
What if you fell into the land of make-believe and dreamt of other possibilities?
Aww.
This was about the land of make-believe right here. This Ileana and Ivan.
Now, were these students from this particular mural project? Where were these students? Where did they come from? Like, were they also in the justice system?
Yes, exactly. So we have, you know, students can refer themselves to us if they're interested in our program. They can just sign up online, and most of our young people, like I said, are involved with the system in general. Like some of our foster care systems, some are in, you know, have been on probation. Some of them have had court cases. Some of them, you know, this year is a little bit different. We have several students who just had an interest in art. So we looked at prevention programs. Like how do we create, you know, using art in the art program to prevent people from going into the justice system. So we have several students who don't have any court cases or no sort of involvement with the justice system in general, but we've allowed them to be a part of the program because we see the value of preventative measures, and there's not a lot of funding for art programs in schools, and you know, so how do we create space in the community setting for those who may not have the opportunities to take advantage of art programming of this scale in the education system. So we do have several students who are not involved with the justice system this year as a byproduct of how we're trying to evolve the organization.
I love hearing that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, both ends of that spectrum.
Exactly. Are important, really. Yeah. And lastly, this is the last project we did this year. It was a project, advocacy project. So once again, as I said, how do you teach someone to advocate for themselves and then advocate for others? So this is an advocacy project where they have to research someone that had been impacted by the justice system and then tell their story. So this is Meek Mill. Ileana did Meek Mill. Someone did Colin Kaepernick. This is Junior Diaz, the young man who was 16 who was attacked and killed in the Bronx by gang members. These are two women who were had gone through domestic violence and sex trafficking, and they ended up killing the men who made them victim of these things, and they were sentenced to prison for killing the person who was sex trafficking them. It was a very unjust way of solving the problem. But Crystal Kaiser and Centoria Brown were the two young women. They were 16 years old when that happened. And I think Centoria Brown has since been released from prison, but imagine being victimized and going through domestic violence and sex trafficking it, and then taking matters into your own hand and killing the guy, and then being sent to prison for murder.
What country were those people? What country were those women? Where did this happen?
This happened in America. This was, I think Centoria Brown was in Alabama. They were both southern states, I believe. But I'll put their names in the follow-ups.
Okay, I can link to this site later.
Yeah, and then so you'll notice that there are lines in between here. So they didn't finish this project because we were interrupted in March. So there's a lot. So this is unfinished work Colin Kaepernick is unfinished, but we thought that telling the story and showing the work as is also shows where we were at that point in time in March. We were going through, the pandemic, where we still are, and we didn't want to not show the work because of
I have a quick question for my students. While looking at these two paintings of these two women being in this unfinished state, what are your thoughts about that? I've heard from Aliana and Andre. Let's see if I can hear from someone who hasn't spoken. Maybe Fabian or Jaden or Jalen. Can you guys unmute your mics and tell me, what do you think about the fact that these women's portraits are unfinished? We'll give them a second to unmute their mic.
I think that it might be unfinished because there was a trial during the time. They couldn't really focus on the art because they had to try and get their freedom, which failed.
So right, so definitely maybe they were busy. I think Mr. Young said that because of COVID, right, nobody had a chance also to finish. But what do you think of it as an art piece?
To me, only one piece looked completed, while the other one just looks like basically 90% there.
Okay.
It already looks done to me, in my opinion.
Thank you, Daniel. Why do you think it looks done to you? Like, you think it's okay being unfinished like that?
I mean, some arts are left unfinished for a reason. They still look good. They're still considered art.
And
also, the girl on the right, she basically already looks finished. Like the brown on her face, I think that's shadowing. The only one that's not finished is the girl on the left because she doesn't have a nose or shadowing.
yeah, they're definitely unfinished. Yes. Is this, hi, good morning, Jonathan.
You could see, it looks like it's finished because you can see the face texture.
They look finished to you, why?
Because you could see like the face texture.
Right, the lines, the contour lines of their faces.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for weighing in. I appreciate that you unmuted your mics. I like that they're unfinished because I think that it helps to tell their story.
Yes, I agree. I think that it tells, it has so much depth. Well, one, it kind of takes us to the moment that we're in right now, but it also tells their story. Because, these are women who have gone through some traumatic experience, and, their stories are often not told, and their stories are, their particular stories are not finished because one was released, and now she gets to kind of to continue her life and in a different way, and become an advocate for herself more, just like Samantha did for them. These are also, Samantha also kind of connects. She really, when you're tackling such a complex and issue that is traumatic, and also as a female artist, which Samantha is, a young woman, I think that it took her a lot of time to do this. As you see, some of the other pieces, we started at the same time and they're finished. But I think it took her a little bit longer because of the process of also telling the story and creating art that is so, that is a traumatic experience for these young women, is also just as traumatic for the artists to create the piece of their story.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying, Soraya?
Yes, I absolutely do. It's a very hard topic to process. And as an artist, whether you're a writer, screenwriter, an actor, and you have to get, regardless of what type of art, in order to convey it properly, you have to enter the world of that individual's trauma, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's heavy.
Yep, exactly. And then this is Ariana. Ariana was the young woman who did the Black Lives Matter, and then you saw the climate change piece. This is also her tackling the issue of healthcare inequalities in the country. So she chose healthcare, and this represents someone who does not have healthcare and is struggling.
That's a really powerful piece.
Yeah, it is. It's very, once again, very emotional. They really went deep this year with some very complex topics. I was extremely proud, but this is also unfinished. This piece right here is unfinished. From the artist's perspective. For me, it looks like it's finished. She's telling the story. But from her perspective, she has more work to do on this.
Can one of my students please tell me, why do you think that these artists that we're looking at, why do you think that their subject matter went so deep? What's the reason?
Because they probably went through it.
I'm sorry, Jonathan?
Because they probably have been through the situation.
They've been
Or
through
family members.
Correct. So it was a personal experience to them, but why now? Like, what's happening right now? Why are these themes so heavy?
Because a friend or a family member got COVID.
Yeah.
Because we're as a world, not just a nation, as a world right now, we are going through some really heavy duty times. And
yeah, I agree too.
you agree too? Anything else you want to say? Albert, what do you think about this? Okay, so that's the school bell. We've gone
over?
My fault, I wasn't paying attention to time.
No problem.
Do any of my students have any questions? Some of my students are with me for period 2 and 3. Those of you who have to leave, do any of you have any questions for Mr. Curtis before you go to your next class?
None.
None?
Actually, I just wanted to thank him for sharing his work.
Hi, Miss Marcia.
I agree.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed sharing with you all.
Yeah, and it's really very nice.
Yeah.
To reach out.
Yeah, very impressive.
Hold on, let Miss Marcia finish what she was saying.
No, I was just saying that it's really nice that you reached out to children that are incarcerated so that they can have a different avenue or how they can express themselves instead of kind of like staying in that bubble and being angry. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have also, this is Miss Addison. She's one of our assistant principals. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I wanted to echo Ms. DeSandis's sentiments that we really appreciate it, and any, opportunity to have our kids exposed to other things and programs, right? It just makes them more well-rounded, and we appreciate it.
Yep, great, thank you. Maybe we could find a way to have some of our young people work with some of your students and do like a project or something together, digital art project. We do meet with our young folks now online from 4 to 5:30 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they're currently working on a comic book project. They're creating a story and doing like this sort of comic book series. But we can I'll talk to Soraya about find a way to Ms. Brooks, excuse me, about a way to maybe do something together.
That would be.
We would appreciate that, yeah.
That would be wonderful. I actually have a question. So some of the students that are on the line now, I think maybe all of them, or most of them, they're seniors, and they are in my an AP college course, and they need to come up with a theme that they're going to base their entire portfolio on for this entire school year. So we've been talking about that. Let me pick your brain a little bit to ask you how, your students that came up with the what if theme, and how did you inspire your students to come up with a theme?
Well, that is where our art therapist comes into play because they have the skills to kind of dive deep into posing questions to get certain emotions out of them. So we really have a brainstorming session where we sit around in a circle and we start to talk about, like, what do you, just some general questions like, how do you feel? What's going on in your personal lives? Is there anything that's happening in your personal life that you want to share in a group setting? And they'll start to add things like, this happened, this happened, this happened. And we start to figure out, okay, well, you're all kind of going through this together. And we make, lines to similar stories. And then we come up with, then we go deeper to talk about like values and core values. And having them think about, like, what are some of the things that drives your life? What are some of your values and things that help you overcome the challenges that you mentioned? and then we keep diving deeper, basically. And it's a big brainstorming session. Sometimes it takes a day, maybe it's two sessions, but after several sessions and several conversations about what's going on in their personal lives, what some of the values that they instill, and what are some of the things that they use to overcome those things, and what are their hopes. You know, I think you can come up with some good ideas after going through those 3 areas. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. In addition to art for social justice, I mean, that in and of itself is, you know, an enormous area for voices, all sorts of voices.
Yeah, it's just really about how do you tell the deepest story, the story that is not told about how you feel inside, and getting them to bring that out, to share that story. Like Ariana was like tired of like seeing trash everywhere, so she created that. What if the world ended because of climate change? You know, that was her what if like statement. You know, because she was so that day, like her trigger was, I'm tired of seeing trash outside. You know, people need to clean up behind themselves. You know,
one of our students on the Zoom call has complained to me on several occasions how annoyed he is with seeing all the trash in New York City. Am I right, Mr. McLaren?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you see Samantha's piece was about, you know, the 2 women, you know, who had gone through domestic violence and sex trafficking. Samantha was also the student you saw with who was pregnant. So being pregnant, becoming a new mother, and also thinking about this issue of sex trafficking, domestic violence, that emotion, that experience was coming directly from her life, her womb. You know, she was becoming a mother. She was about to give birth to a child. So she was obviously concerned about those issues. So really figuring out a way to the art therapist, tapping into those emotions and bringing out like that is really what helps create the dynamism in the artwork that you see.
I did love that I think it was Samantha that she started painting the Black Lives Matter on clothing.
Yeah, once again, going into several material, like using whatever is around you. And one of the things we've learned over the past, few months is like, sometimes our sessions will start off with, okay, everyone go find an image, go find something in your house that you can paint on. Like it could be like the back of a cereal box, like, you know, and then take a marker and then draw this, like giving them a very clear directive, but using anything around you in your apartment that you can transform, that you can make art. You know, sometimes they're cutting up cups and they're using the inside of that, you know? So it's like using material to create something. And I think that is a great example of Ariana's work when she used our clothing to make a piece of art that is now, like, you know, on our website.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it was very powerful. I loved the presentation, and I'm so glad to connect with you and to see what you've been up to. It's really, 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 really exciting. I know we wanted to meet in person last year, so so this is great. Any students, anyone have any questions for Mr. Young, Curtis? Any questions?
I don't think so.
Thank you, Daniel, for unmuting your mic, and thank you, students, for tuning in and for participating. And Curtis, I look forward to, let's see, I need to change my view here. I look forward to speaking with you further about how we can potentially work together. And
cool, thank you. Well, thank you all, and you all have a great day at school, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, thank you so much, Curtis.
All right, bye.
Bye. Have a great day, everyone.